Welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about how do you do B2B prospecting. Your job in sales is to, of course, stand out amongst the competition. You have to build rapport and trust with your prospects. And you also have to become unforgettable so that when they finally decide they're ready to buy or they have a need, they think of you and they don't do a lot of shopping around. And so how do you do that today? Well, I'm going to share with you in this video my top 7 ways that you can do that, including the overall #1 most effective way that I do B2B prospecting. And then I'm going to share with you 3 things to never ever do unless you want to totally turn off your prospects. Stick around. Okay, we're going to start with the most obvious ways that you have probably been told to prospect. #1, LinkedIn. The challenge with LinkedIn is that if you're using it as a prospecting tool, it can be difficult. If you're not using their prospecting tool, their sales navigator, then you are probably trying to connect with prospects and send them invitations to connect, customized messages, that sort of thing. The challenge is so many of our prospects are bombarded by salespeople over the years who have not done a good job of this, and they send generic messages to connect with no context or whatever, or they send a message to connect, and then once the prospect accepts that, they immediately go into sales mode. A lot of things that have made your customers not want to even look at their LinkedIn invitations anymore. So that one can be a bit of a challenge, and I will go into more detail on an entirely different, separate video dedicated just to LinkedIn prospecting. But I don't think it's your #1 way to prospect anymore. So let's move on from LinkedIn. Okay, so we know that one of the most effective ways that you can prospect is by referral. If you get a referral from somebody and you just follow that chain along, then that's a great way to make a new connection. The challenge with that is many salespeople never ask me when I am their customer for referrals, which is crazy because it's not my job as their customer to automatically think of that. And so often I don't think of that unless they're really, really good or I have an idea of somebody they need to meet. So simply asking the question, how do I get to meet other cool people like you that I could do business with? Like, where do I find other people like you? And very often, if you ask a customer for help, they're going to give it to you, especially if you did a good job for them or if they have a relationship with you. So wait, of course, till you have a relationship, wait till you've done a good job, and then ask them, hey, can you introduce me or give me names of 2 or 3 people, or how would I do this, or who do you know? Just ask the question and then follow that chain down the line. A friend of mine who is in sales has this great philosophy where he will not try to sell to a prospect until he has helped that prospect at least a couple times. So he will often start, like say he meets a prospect at a conference and say, how can I help you? Who would it be helpful for you to know? Maybe I have someone in my network. Or what resources do you need? Or where are you struggling? And he will selflessly, legitimately help them a couple times first, which develops that rapport, helps him stand out, helps him build that trust, and then he will ask them for business, or he'll go into sales mode, but not before then. Today it is so important when we have this trust crisis and your prospects are skeptical and they're bombarded by other sales people to go about this a different way. So trying the referral chain and just asking and following that up, and then ask all of your customers. Go back to customers that you worked with in the past and say, hey, I just wanted to touch base with you. How are you doing? And I've just been thinking, I would love to work with more people like you. Can you introduce me to some? So often they will say yes. Okay, the #3 way is the dreaded cold calling. Now, some of you love this and you swear that it's effective. For many of you, you hate it, or it just hasn't been effective for you. Well, there are some things that you can do to make this more effective. Sometimes picking up the phone works. Why? Well, interestingly, it's kind of a paradox. We got so overwhelmed as customers. So I study consumer behavior. This is where this information is coming from. So I know kind of how their behavior is changing and what they like and what they hate. So during the pandemic, they got bombarded with emails and other marketing messages and all of this, where companies cut their travel budgets, cut their trade show budgets, obviously. And so salespeople were doing all of that, and they were cold calling, and it was all too much. So how can you do it the right way? The paradox is that your customers for years and years were so anti-phone, anti-picking up the phone, anti-human connection. Because of the pandemic, we started to crave that human connection again. So if you do it well, you might actually get a response. I'm not saying they may pick up the phone and talk to you live. They might, which is weird, right? And rare. But if they don't, you've got to leave that voicemail, and it's got to be compelling. So what do you say in the voicemail, assuming that they didn't pick up and you want to compel them to call you back? Well, the first thing is to prove that you've done your research. I know this takes extra time, but rather than doing 50 cold outreaches where you don't know anything and you just repeat the same script over and over again, how many of those actually call you back? Now take another subgroup of 50, do your research, and you will prove to yourself that the more research you do, yes, it takes more time before each call, but the rate of return is so much higher. So do your research about them professionally and personally. Find out maybe one thing about them professionally, something about them in the news, something about their company in the news, something personal that you have in common. And then make the call. You have a built-in opener then to say, hey, I was doing my research and I found out something really interesting about you. People's ears perk up because our favorite thing to talk about is ourselves. So you go into that first and then acknowledge that they're busy. You're going to keep it really brief. And the thing that I do, regardless of how I prospect, is I say a couple of things. I say, I would love to know the least annoying way that you like to be connected with. So you can let me know that prospect person. You can, here's my phone if you want to text me. Here's my email if you want to email me. Figure out all the different ways that you can make it so easy for them to connect with you back the way they want to. Don't expect that they're just going to pick up the phone and call you back. I hate talking on the phone. I will never call someone back if I don't know them. I mean, hardly ever. So make it easy for them. So I say, what's the least annoying way for me to follow up with you or for you to get in touch with me? Here are all the ways. And how or when can I be most helpful to you? And ask them when is a good time to follow up. And then hopefully they'll respond, especially if you can add in some humor. The least annoying way is actually a good phrase that I use that gets me responses. What's the least annoying way that I can follow up with you and when? Number 4 is warm calling. So this is where you actually have a referral, you've been introduced, or you met them at a conference, you have something to go by. But still, unless you asked how they want to be connected with, we still kind of don't know. So assuming you call them, assuming it goes to voicemail, you still have to leave that message, reminding them how they know you and acknowledging that you know they're busy, you're going to keep it brief, kind of all the same things. Again, ask them, what is the least annoying way for me to follow up with you? Or here are all the ways you can follow up with me. And kind of ask for those same kind of things. What's the least annoying way and when would be a good time to follow up? I'm just following up now because we just met at that conference or because Joe told me to reach out to you because he thinks you're an amazing human, something like that. But then, hey, when is the best time for me to keep in touch? Be respectful of them and ask. Number 5, the dreaded cold email. Now, a couple tips right off the bat: don't attach anything and don't put any links if you can avoid it, and make sure that your email signature block doesn't have a lot of separate photos or any extraneous links or anything, because especially if they're a corporation, so many firewalls are in place now to prevent cyber attacks, of course. So do yourself a favor so that you can make it through the firewall first off, so that it is at least going to land in their inbox. The second thing to do if you're cold emailing is use a vague subject line like, can we meet? Can we connect? Or if you met at a conference, put the name of the conference, or put something about their company, or something vague like that. Don't put a sales message. Don't put announcing this, or do you need widgets, or anything like that. Any of the too salesy stuff, just keep it simple and keep it vague, so that then you make it through the next hoop. You made it through the firewall. Now we need to get past the fact that they are so likely to just swipe away before they even open your email. So we've made it past that, hopefully. Then really follow the same thing. Hi, here's showing that you did your research. I'm sure you are incredibly busy. I usually say something like, I know your hair's probably on fire, or you've got dumpster fires you're putting out, but just wanted to sneak into your inbox. Thank you for taking 26 seconds to read this. Here's why I'm reaching out. What is the best way to provide you more info when you're ready? So what's the best way? Again, asking that. And when is the best time? What's the least annoying? However you want to phrase that. But just basically, what you're doing is you're asking them for permission to contact them further. And I'll get to my 3 don'ts at the end of this. Stick around for those, because some of those have to do with cold emails, and I hate these tactics that some people use. And the other thing is mutual help. So say, hey, I would love to talk. You may be interested in meeting somebody in my network who can help you with a challenge or with your career or whatnot. And here's what I would love from you. Let's connect and help each other, and do that legitimately, okay, and sincerely. So that's my best advice on cold email. And again, keeping it brief. Like, don't assume you're only ever going to get one chance to tell them every single thing about you, your company, your widgets, and how great they all are. Stay away from the features and the benefits. Do not include them in this initial email. That is not the point of this email. The point of this email is not to make a sale at all. The point is to stand out, get them to open it, and start to build trust and rapport. And you do that by asking them those questions that I mentioned. And you do that by respecting whatever it is that they tell you. Okay? So change your thinking about the point of the email. Okay, say you are warm emailing them. So this is where, again, like you met at a conference, or you have someone in common, you have some reason to call them other than they're just on your list. So you're warm emailing them. Then I tend to use a more specific subject line. So I will say, Bob Smith said you're awesome, or referred by Jody, or something like that, or we met at the such and such conference. So give a little bit more context, and then follow the same protocol. A one line, hey, I hope you enjoyed the conference. I loved this thing that happened. Something like that, just really simple. But then go into the same thing. Here's why I'm reaching out. I'm not going to bore you with features and benefits and a big old sales pitch. In fact, you can even say that exact thing. That would work on me as a customer. What I want to know is when would be a good time to send you information, and what is the best, least annoying way to do that for you? What do you prefer? So asking those questions, and again, offering some sort of mutual help if you have something like that to give. So really what you're noticing is once you get their eyeballs on your message or their ear on your voicemail, we're following kind of the same protocol, which all has to do with how our customers have changed, because you and I, all of us, have changed as a result of the pandemic. We are exhausted. We are trying to have some semblance of normal, whatever that is, years after the pandemic. And we don't want another pitch, and we don't want to be bombarded, and we don't like the old tactics. So do something different and you will automatically stand out. And then the rapport is yours to build. The number one way to do B2B prospecting today is video email. This is the number one tool for me when I am prospecting B2B, because I'm trying to sell myself as a professional speaker. I have to reach out to corporations, to associations, all the places where I want to speak, and I have to break through just like you do. So yes, I'm on social media. Yes, I occasionally do the LinkedIn stuff, cold email, warm email, blah, blah, blah. But the number one way, hands down, is video email. A couple of things to know about video email. Number one, get yourself a dry erase board from the dollar store and write that person's name on it and hold it up at the beginning of the video email. Why? Because there's some sort of, there's almost a sense of obligation. Oh my gosh, they did this just for me. They took the time. It kind of triggers, okay, I'm at least gonna watch this, okay? So that, but also they know that you're not just filming a mass video email and sending it out to everybody. It's personalized, it's about them. And then make sure that you don't use your phone and send it as an attachment. No. Again, the firewall issue. And also an attachment, a video attachment can get huge. So also use a whitelisted service. I use dubb.com. I've used it for years. I like it because it's a whitelisted service, meaning their server sends the email, but it comes under my name and looking like my address. So if that person responds, it comes straight to my email. But their server is whitelisted. So I have a higher chance of making it through the firewalls to whomever I'm sending it. And also, services like Dubb, whatever you end up using, make sure they have analytics on the back end so you can see when and if somebody opened it and how much of it they watched and if they watched it multiple times. These are all sales cues for you and great intelligence for you to have. So that's the second tip. And then when I start, I am waving because Dubb gives me the option to send a GIF in the email that goes to them where it's my image and it's like a second and a half of me on repeat. So the prospect sees I'm holding up their name and I'm just kind of waving. So I just look friendly and approachable. So I wave and then I put it down and then I get right into, hey, I same kind of protocol. I tell them why I'm connecting. I keep it very brief. Like if you can keep this under a minute, which is really hard, do that, okay? 2 minutes at the most. And that is even a bit risky. And then the subject line, treat this as a warm email because they're going to see your GIF and see your face. And so they already know, okay, I don't know this person. So you want to treat it as a warm email and give them context. Like we met at this, or I was referred by this person, or can we connect? Can we connect is a little bit more vague. So be a little bit more specific if you can. And then in that message, again, I just talk about, here's why I'm reaching out. I would love to send you more information or connect in any way that you prefer. What is that preferred way for me to reach out to you again, and when? When would be a good time? Because with B2B, their sales cycle could be a year. It could be that you hit them at exactly the right time, which is very rare. Wish it were more often. But it could be that they don't want to meet with you until they have a need, or it could be that they have a need next week. So ask them and follow that same kind of protocol as with all the other ways to connect. So now, the 3 things to never do when you are prospecting B2B. Number 1, do not guilt them. I cannot believe how many emails I get where people say, this is the 3rd time that I've tried to reach out to you. Do they think that's gonna work? Guilt tactics, no. Don't use the guilt tactic. The second thing to never do is don't tell them when you are going to follow up or say, hey, would you like to talk next Thursday at 9? It's just, that may have worked at one time. That is too presumptuous nowadays to just say, I'm going to call you at this exact time next Tuesday. Do you think they're going to be waiting for your call? No. So you can be vague about this and say, hey, if I don't hear from you, I'll follow up again in a couple weeks because I don't want to overwhelm you with cold calls. I know you're probably sick of that. So say something like that, but don't say, do you want to meet at this time, at this date? Or tell them you're going to call at this time on this date. Too presumptuous. And the third thing is Lose the formality. If you start your email with, "I trust this email finds you well," immediately no. Immediately no. Delete, unsubscribe. No thank you, sir. Have a good day. Just talk like a normal person. In fact, have a little fun with it. Talk like you're talking to somebody you just met at a conference in the bar. You wouldn't say, "Hello, I trust you are doing well on this fine evening." Who does that? Nobody. So don't you do it. So those are the 3 top things not to do, and I wish you the best of luck in your prospecting. And if there's something else that you'd like to hear from me, reach out or comment on another subject that you want me to cover. I am happy to delve into anything that you find helpful. Thanks.